I'm in the gym and I just had a thought. If all women locked their coochies up until we got married, everybody would be married. Yeah.
I'm in a group chat with a whole bunch of girls, and none of them are getting laid. And the ones that are like in long-term relationships, and the ones that are single are like, nope, not having it until I am in a committed relationship. The girls are healing. I'm proud of the girls. They're healing.
Do men understand that the floor is in the pits of hell? So if I don't want to fuck with you no more, it means that you exceeded that and you're in Satan's asshole at this point. So when I say I don't want to talk to you anymore, say, okay, madam, and bow out and go and be happy that you had my attention for the measly second that you never even fucking deserved. I hate these niggas so much. Oh my God. Because I want to be dainty and I want to be femme and I want to be vulnerable and I want to be affectionate. But they're so stupid that they can't appreciate it. So then I have to turn into a wolf. And ow on their ass. Ah!
I am 23 and I've never had a boyfriend, and I used to feel bad about this, but now I don't, and here's why. I see this topic come up on my For You page quite a bit. I don't know what TikTok's trying to say or what message it's trying to send, but when you start high school or you start college or whatever, you see other people get into relationships that are the same age as you, doing the same things as you, and you get a bit like, you start to ask yourself questions like, what am I doing wrong? Like, how come everyone else is in a relationship? How come everyone else has a boyfriend and I don't? And I feel like it starts to prey on your insecurities a little bit. It's happened to me as I've gotten older that I've spoken to friends in relationships that are dealing with like boy trouble, girl trouble, like whatever. And I've realized like, you think that you're missing out on this huge thing, like relationships and never had a boyfriend, whatever it is. You are not missing out. Like, oh my God, I can't emphasize this enough. Sometimes my friends talk to me about their like boy drama and what's going on, and I'm like wow, like thank God I'm not going through that. Like, I know some relationships can be good, some relationships can be bad, but don't assume that just because you've not had a relationship that you're actually missing out on something like good. Like, heavy on that part. Like, you'll automatically assume that all these things that your friends have going on and all these dates that they're going on, the talking stages that they're in, like, you'll assume that like they're good. And like that is a bold assumption to make, because a lot of them are not good, especially nowadays with like online dating. Like, if you've ever been on a dating app, like it is not fun. And I know to some extent I can't talk because I've not had a boyfriend myself, but what I do know, and I've come to realize later on, is that like it's actually so common that at this age you are single. But something that is so important that people don't talk about enough is just how important it is to have an identity outside of relationships. Part of the story is, I know anyone that's 21 or 22, 23, whatever age, and never had a boyfriend, like it'll always be in the back of your mind that like, what am I doing wrong? Is there something wrong with me? You're naturally going to question yourself, and that won't go away. But it's a lot more common than you think, and it's actually like a blessing in disguise, because you've got like an identity outside of romance and relationships.
Research shows America's youth today are having less sex. The 2023 Centers for Disease Control and Prevention Youth Risk Behavior found adolescent sexual behavior decline since 2013. A 2022 survey from the Kinsey Institute that found 1 in 4 Gen Z adults say they have never experienced partnered sex. But are Gen Z really as modest as some may think? Carter Sherman, 31, a journalist for The Guardian, digs into that question with her new book, The Second Coming, which explores Gen Z's sex lives or lack thereof. Sherman found through interviews with more than 100 young people that this generational dry spell is less puritanical and more political, with Gen Zers abstaining from sex for a complex variety of reasons. Gen Z is sometimes framed as a nation of virgins, Sherman writes, but our obsession with their lack of intercourse may really say more about our constant need to tell young people how to have sex. Rather than be corrective, she argues, we should focus on approaches that promote safe, consensual encounters and reduce shame. Question: you share at the opening of the book you were obsessed with losing your virginity as a teen, sobbing to your mother when you learned a best friend lost theirs to a classmate before you. How is the idea of virginity impacting how we think about young people and sex? I was so obsessed with my own virginity. Truly, my last few years of high school were dominated by a total freakout that I was still a virgin. I felt that I should have already had sex, and my friends were leaving me behind by having sex, and I felt I wasn't living up to the standard of being a teenager. Part of my own journey in writing this book was coming to understand that standard was based on false information. You're either too virginal or not virginal enough. There's no way to win. I don't think we've moved from the idea of virginity. At the end of the day, many of the young people I spoke to felt their virginity was important, and some feel that their virginity was treated as too important. We are always setting standards that don't match up to reality and make us feel worse about ourselves. What doesn't help is the level of shame people carry around and the feeling they're constantly doing it wrong. How much of a factor is the end of Roe v. Wade playing in Gen Z's not having sex? Gen Z is absolutely aware of how much the overturning of Roe v. Wade has changed the US, and in particularly their sex lives. 16% of Gen Zers are now more hesitant to date since the fall of Roe. There are so many young women I talked to who shared a level of sheer anxiety that Roe's overturning sparked. What the overturning of Roe has done is create a deep of anxiety, but also create a generation that is ready to do battle over this. Feeling this stuff doesn't make you feel safe enough not only to be in a sexual relationship, but also a romantic one. At the same time, you spoke with conservative youth, particularly men, and found that movements to embrace traditional sex roles have also complicated youth feelings about sex. What I call sexual conservatism speaks to that. This is a movement to make it dangerous to have queer, unmarried, or recreational sex. Sexual conservatism has done a much better job of speaking about the difficulties of raising a family in this country than progressives. It's very appealing for young people to go towards sexual conservatism because the only people they hear talking about it are those on the right. If you feel like you're not being heard, you're going to go to the only people talking about this issue in a comprehensive manner. Gen Z has so much online information about sex, including porn, at their fingertips. How does that impact their sex lives? I really love how the internet has opened up discussions about what is sexuality, but social media also does this thing where it makes people extremely aware of the ways they believe they're falling short with sex. We're gauging our sexual value by likes, matches, and follower counts. It makes people not want to engage in sex because they feel they have to look perfect naked in order to get naked. That's not a recipe for vulnerability or connection. How does OnlyFans fit into all of this? As OnlyFans bleeds into mainstream social media, it becomes another metric whereby people evaluate themselves and make themselves also appear that way. For young people, the line between real life and virtual sex is very much diminishing and blurring. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, it's just how it is at this point. If we want to have conversations about sex, we have to acknowledge so much of young people's sex lives are shaped by the interactions they're having online. What is your advice for older adults trying to relate Gen Z right now?